Have you ever felt that being too kind has made your life worse? You give, you help, you put others before yourself, and yet somehow you end up feeling drained, unappreciated, or even taken advantage of. We're told kindness is a virtue. That good people finish first, that generosity is always rewarded. But what if that's only half the truth? What if kindness without wisdom becomes a silent trap? Kindness can be your greatest weakness if it's not paired with wisdom. I want to tell you about a man named Daniel. Daniel was the kind of person everyone admired. He was always there when someone needed help, covering shifts at work, lending money to friends, offering emotional support to anyone who asked. His phone was always ringing with people who needed something. He said yes every time. At first he felt good about it. Being needed gave him purpose. But slowly, things started to change. His workload increased, but his own projects suffered. His bank account drained, yet no one paid him back. His kindness was met with entitlement, not gratitude, and when he finally needed help, the people he had once supported disappeared. One day, he sat alone in his apartment, exhausted, staring at a pile of unpaid bills and unanswered messages. That's when it hit him. He had spent years helping everyone except himself. Daniel's story is not unique. It's the story of millions of people who were taught that kindness is always the answer, only to find that without boundaries, kindness can break you. So let's explore the 8 ways being too nice is secretly ruining your life, and what Stoic wisdom says about it. 1. People will take advantage of you. A kind employee named David worked tirelessly at his job, always ready to help his colleagues, staying late to finish tasks that weren't his, and stepping in whenever someone needed assistance. Everyone admired him, but when promotions were announced, David's name was never on the list. Instead, those who had done far less, who had set clear boundaries and knew when to say no, were the ones climbing the ladder. David's kindness was mistaken for weakness, and people took advantage of his generosity. He found himself exhausted, unappreciated, and questioning why his efforts never seemed to pay off. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, warned against this very trap. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. True kindness is not blind self-sacrifice. It is balanced with wisdom. The Stoics believed in being helpful and virtuous, but not at the expense of one's own dignity. If you give endlessly without drawing the line, you teach people that your time and energy are disposable. Assertiveness is not cruelty. It is self-respect in action. And what happens when you fail to set these boundaries? Slowly, without realizing it, you lose something far more valuable than a promotion or recognition. You lose your own self-respect. When you let people use you without standing up for yourself, you start to feel powerless. You become a doormat, not because others decide it for you, but because you allow it. 2. You'll lose self-respect and become a doormat. Imagine a man who avoids conflict at all costs, letting people walk all over him. He says yes when he means no and remains silent when he should speak up. He believes that, in doing so, he is being kind or compassionate, but the truth is, with every act of self-neglect, he is losing something far more precious, his self-respect. In his attempts to please others, he forgets that true kindness must first come from a place of self-respect. As Epictetus wisely put it, to care for others, first respect yourself. Without this foundation, what he calls kindness is merely a facade, a weakness that others will inevitably exploit. Stoic wisdom teaches us that kindness should never come at the cost of our dignity. It is rooted in the strength of character, not in the fear of rejection or conflict. When we respect ourselves, we not only protect our peace but also empower our relationships. Now this brings us to a critical consequence of neglecting your own self-respect. You'll start attracting toxic people. These individuals are drawn to those who lack boundaries, who are willing to sacrifice their own well-being to avoid confrontation. Toxic people thrive in environments where they can manipulate and take advantage of others. When you don't respect yourself, you give others the green light to disrespect you, which only invites more negativity into your life. 3. You'll attract toxic people. There's something bittersweet about being the kind of person who always lends a hand, who always says yes, who always puts others first. It feels noble, even virtuous. But there's a hidden cost. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was the kind of woman who never turned anyone away. If a friend needed money, she gave it. If a co-worker needed help, she stayed late. If a family member needed support, she dropped everything. But over time, something strange happened. The people around her weren't grateful. They expected her kindness. They took without giving. They drained her energy and left her exhausted. She found herself surrounded by users, people who only saw her as a resource, not a person. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Bad company corrupts good morals," and it's true. You might start with the purest intentions, but if you allow yourself to be surrounded by those who only take, eventually they will deplete you. True kindness isn't about being endlessly available. It's about knowing when to say no, when to protect your energy, and when to walk away from those who do not value you. And yet for people like Sarah, saying no doesn't come easily. The problem is, when you spend so much time catering to others, you start suppressing your own feelings. You push down your frustrations, your exhaustion, your needs, because saying them out loud feels selfish. But here's the danger. Emotions don't disappear just because you ignore them. They fester. They turn into resentment, into bitterness. You smile on the outside, but inside a storm is brewing. And one day, all that suppressed emotion will erupt, often at the wrong time, towards the wrong person, in a way that leaves even you shocked. This is what happens when you prioritize peace over honesty, when you pretend everything is fine just to avoid conflict. But what if true peace isn't about avoiding conflict? What if it's about expressing yourself in a way that is both honest and kind? 4. You'll suppress your true feelings and build resentment. When we suppress our true feelings, we don't eliminate them. We merely bury them under layers of pretense. But emotions, like pressure in a sealed container, don't disappear. They build. Imagine a man who, in the name of peace, never expresses his frustration. Every time he's slighted, he smiles. Every time he's wronged, he nods. He believes he's being strong, noble even. But inside, resentment brews. One day the pressure becomes unbearable. A minor inconvenience, a misplaced word, a forgotten favor, triggers an explosion. He lashes out, shocking everyone, including himself. Years of silence pour out in a single moment of unfiltered rage. What was meant to be self-control has become self-destruction. Stoicism is often misunderstood as emotional suppression, but that is not its wisdom. The Stoics never advocated for burying emotions. They taught mastering them. A healthy mind is neither servile nor aggressive. True composure isn't found in submission or outbursts, but in measured response. A Stoic acknowledges anger, understands it, and channels it productively. It is not the suppression of feelings that leads to peace, but the disciplined management of them. And yet beyond the damage to our inner world, there is another cost, a loss more insidious. When we are consumed by suppressed emotions, our focus drifts from what truly matters. Instead of directing our energy toward our goals, we squander it on internal battles. Instead of moving forward, we ruminate on past offenses. Time, that irreplaceable currency of life, is spent not on growth, but on unspoken grievances. And so, without realizing it, we lose what matters most: the clarity of purpose, the pursuit of our aspirations. 5. You'll lose time and focus on your goals. Imagine a man named Daniel, a kind-hearted soul who always put others before himself. Whenever a friend was in trouble, he was the first to offer help. When colleagues needed assistance, he stayed late to support them. Over the years, he became the go-to person for everyone's problems. But while he was busy solving their issues, his own dreams remained untouched, gathering dust in the back of his mind. He once aspired to start his own business, to write a book, to travel. But every time he tried, someone needed him and he couldn't say no. Years passed, and one day he looked back and realized that while he had given so much to others, he had given nothing to his own future. His time, his focus, his goals, all had been sacrificed on the altar of endless generosity. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "If you do not guard your time, others will waste it for you." And that's precisely what happens when kindness lacks boundaries. There is nothing noble about abandoning your own purpose. In fact, the highest form of service to the world is to fulfill your own potential first. Only then can you truly help others in a meaningful way. Balance is the key. Kindness must be tempered with self-discipline, generosity with wisdom. But there's another consequence to this self-sacrificing behavior. One that goes beyond your own lost time and unfulfilled dreams. When you make yourself perpetually available, when you solve every problem for others, you don't just weaken yourself. You weaken them. You unknowingly create dependency instead of strength. 6. You'll create dependency, not strength in others. A father watches as his son struggles to fix a broken bicycle. Every time the boy fumbles, the father steps in, tightening the bolts, adjusting the chain, solving the problem before frustration sets in. He tells himself he's helping, sparing his child from unnecessary struggle, but what he's really doing is stealing from him the chance to learn, to fail, to grow resilient. Years later, when life presents far greater obstacles, the boy, now a man, looks around waiting for someone to step in. But no one comes. His father had given him comfort, not strength, and in doing so, he had unknowingly left him weak. Epictetus once said, "Give people strength, not comfort." True kindness does not eliminate struggle. It prepares others to endure it. A parent who removes every hardship from their child's path does not raise a capable adult, only a dependent one. A friend who shields another from every discomfort does not encourage resilience, only fragility. We do not serve people by rescuing them from every fall, but by teaching them how to rise. And yet, if we ourselves are always seeking comfort, if we run from difficulty and rely on others to cushion our falls, we are left utterly unprepared for the harshness of life. Because life, indifferent and unyielding, does not soften itself for anyone. It will test us. It will demand strength. And if we have never learned to struggle, to endure, to stand on our own, we will find ourselves lost in its storms, waiting for a rescue that will never come. 7. You'll be unprepared for the harshness of life. A young man raised in comfort and shielded from the world's cruelties stepped into adulthood believing in the inherent goodness of life. His parents had always softened the blows. His teachers had encouraged rather than criticized, and his friends had rarely challenged him. The world, he was told, was a place of fairness, where kindness was met with kindness, and sincerity was always rewarded. Then reality struck. A ruthless employer dismissed him without a second thought. A close friend betrayed him for personal gain. A relationship he had invested his heart into shattered under the weight of unspoken truths. He found himself overwhelmed, crumbling under the weight of life's indifference. He wasn't prepared, not because he lacked intelligence or talent, but because he had never been taught that suffering is not an anomaly, it is the norm. The Stoics understood this well. Train your mind to expect hardship, they advised, not because they were pessimists, but because they recognized that resilience is built through exposure, not avoidance. Life will not always be kind, and kindness, though noble, should never replace resilience. To navigate the world, one must be strong enough to endure its storms without breaking. Because life does not pause to console, it simply moves forward, indifferent to who keeps up and who falls behind. But here lies the danger. In trying to soften the world for ourselves and for others, we begin to sacrifice something far greater. In prioritizing comfort, we start avoiding discomfort. In seeking harmony, we shy away from conflict. And in trying to be kind, we sometimes abandon truth. That is the next tragedy, when the pursuit of niceness comes at the cost of honesty. 8. You'll sacrifice truth for niceness. A true leader understands that kindness and truth are not opposing forces, but complementary virtues. However, many fall into the trap of sacrificing truth for the sake of being nice. They fear confrontation, avoid difficult conversations, and sugarcoat reality, believing that sparing others from discomfort is an act of kindness. But this misguided approach often leads to far greater suffering in the long run. Consider a leader who refuses to deliver bad news to his team. He notices declining performance, but hesitates to address it directly, afraid of demoralizing his employees. Instead, he offers vague encouragement, hoping things will improve on their own. But they don't. Productivity continues to decline, problems compound, and eventually the business collapses. Not because he was too harsh, but because he was too gentle at the wrong moments. His attempt to protect others from discomfort resulted in far greater harm. The Stoics understood this paradox well. Be kind, but never at the cost of truth. True kindness is not about avoiding discomfort, but about delivering the truth with wisdom and compassion. A doctor does not withhold a difficult diagnosis out of politeness. A mentor does not let a student fail just to avoid hurting their feelings. Real kindness demands honesty, because only through truth can people grow, improve, and make informed decisions about their lives. This brings us to the real challenge. How do we balance kindness with strength? How do we remain compassionate without becoming weak? The Stoic solution lies in mastering the art of tough love, knowing when to be gentle, when to be firm, and how to communicate truth in a way that serves rather than wounds. Let's explore how Stoicism teaches us to be kind without being weak. 3 Stoic rules for smart kindness. Friends, today I want to address a timeless question. How can we be kind without appearing weak? It's a dilemma many of us face in a world where kindness is often misunderstood. Too frequently, kindness is seen as an act of vulnerability, a way to be exploited by others. But the Stoics offer us a profound answer to this challenge, guiding us to embrace a form of kindness that is both wise and empowering. Let's begin with the first Stoic rule for smart kindness: be selective. Kindness is a valuable resource, and like any precious gift, it should not be given indiscriminately. The Stoics taught us that our actions should be based on wisdom, not mere impulse. When you offer kindness, it should go to those who deserve it, those who show respect, integrity, and a willingness to reciprocate. Offering kindness to those who take advantage of it only depletes you and may even cause harm to both you and the recipient. It's a delicate balance, but the Stoics were clear. We must be mindful of where we invest our emotional energy. The second rule is setting boundaries. It's impossible to be kind without having the self-respect to protect your time, your energy, and your core values. Boundaries aren't a sign of weakness. They are a sign of self-awareness and respect. The Stoics believed that it is our duty to safeguard our inner peace and resources. Kindness must not come at the cost of your own well-being or compromise your principles. By setting clear boundaries, you ensure that your kindness is not a tool for manipulation, but a choice made from a place of strength. And lastly, the Stoic concept of tough love provides us with perhaps the most powerful lesson. Kindness should be aimed at strengthening others, not enabling their weaknesses. Stoic philosophers understood that true compassion doesn't always look soft. Sometimes being kind means challenging someone to grow, to face their shortcomings, and to rise to their potential. Kindness, in this sense, is a force for growth. It may involve hard truths or moments of discomfort, but it is always designed to uplift, not to coddle. In sum, to be kind without being weak is to practice selective generosity, to set strong boundaries, and to embody tough love. The Stoic solution is clear. True kindness comes from a position of strength, wisdom, and integrity. It doesn't diminish you, it empowers you, and it empowers others to become their best selves. As we navigate through the complexities of life, we often hear the phrase, "be kind." It's a sentiment we've all encountered countless times. But today I want to offer a deeper reflection on what kindness truly means. Kindness, at its core, should not be something we do because we feel obligated to. It should be a conscious choice, one that comes from a place of strength, clarity, and purpose. You see, kindness is not a weakness. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that being kind means being passive or allowing others to take advantage of us. But that couldn't be further from the truth. True kindness is about setting boundaries, knowing when to speak up, and understanding that being compassionate to others also means being compassionate to ourselves. The beauty of kindness lies in its intentionality. It is something we choose to extend to others, despite the challenges, despite the hurdles. It's about seeing the good in people, offering support when it's needed, and acting with empathy, even in moments of difficulty. But it's also about having the courage to be firm when necessary, to protect your own peace, and to maintain your sense of integrity in the face of adversity. So, let's rethink the way we approach kindness. Let's move beyond the surface level of obligation and recognize it as a reflection of our inner strength. To be kind is to acknowledge that we possess the resilience to care, the wisdom to give, and the courage to stand firm in our values. As we close today, I challenge you to make kindness a deliberate choice in your life. A choice that you make, not because you have to, but because you understand its power. Be kind, but always remember, be strong. Let your kindness be the strength that uplifts, empowers, and transforms both your life and the lives of those around you. Thank you for looking. Every question holds the key to wisdom. Timeless wisdom, life-changing insights. If today's insights resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. Until next time, stay curious, stay wise,